What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sports 2.0 show. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Grant Mitchell, and I'm joined by an awesome panel of co-hosts here. At the top left, we've got Amber Williams. To her right, we've got Jay Williams. And right next to me on the bottom, we have Ryan Godzid. Now, Ryan, I was joking with you before. We're talking about the NFL storylines through training camp today. People might think there's a little bias going on with your background there. I mean, Amber and I, we've got a little bit of our college spirit, but you've taken it to a new level over there.
I mean, let's face it, whether I'm a Niners fan or not, I think everyone agrees here that the Niners are going to be very competitive this season. They're one of the Super Bowl contenders coming back. Got an injury-filled year last year. Kyle Shanahan's got a lot to prove. Trey Lance coming in. Garoppolo's a starter. I'm ready for the season. Let's go.
He's ready for the season. He's supporting a team over on the West Coast. Amber and I in Virginia. Jay is down in Miami. We're all over the place here, but that's good for you guys because we have all the stories around the country covered. And we're going to start, of course, with the biggest one here. Aaron Rodgers returning to Green Bay. He shows up for training camp. There were a lot of conversations in the offseason about if he would be traded or not. Denver Broncos were floated out there as a possible destination. He threatened retirement, auditioned to be the new host of Jeopardy. A lot of uncertainty about him, but the former MVP, the reigning MVP, is back. And Ryan, we were just going back and forth, and you're going to get to open us up here. What does Aaron Rodgers coming back to the Packers mean, assuming he is not traded before the season kicks off?
Well, it means the Packers are relevant again. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers was gone, I don't think they'd make the playoffs. Probably and finish last in their division, honestly. But if you're a Packers fan, you have to be ecstatic right now. I know people are saying, yeah, it's only 1 year, especially since, I don't know if you guys saw, but on Instagram, him and Davante Adams posted a picture of MJ and Pippen from The Last Dance, hinting that it might be their last ride together in Green Bay. But if you're a Packers fan, like I said, you have to be ecstatic. On the eve of the NFL draft, the report came out that Rodgers wanted out, and it honestly, it seemed like Rodgers was going to hold out and not play unless he got traded. Looks like it was all a stunt, and he's coming back. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does leave next season. But like I said, he's coming back for this season. Green Bay has made that NFC Championship game back-to-back years, finished the season 13-3. Looks like Davante Adams is cooperating now. A few days ago he said, yeah, I don't know about how my status is with the Packers. Now it looks like he's coming back. Randall Cobb might return to the Packers too, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So everything's coming back for the Packers. This takes a lot of pressure off Matt LaFleur. If Rodgers were to be missing today at the first day of training camp, we would have gotten a lot of questions about how is Jordan Love? Is he ready? Where is Aaron Rodgers? Is he coming back? So for the Matt LaFleur, I think he has to take a sigh of relief. With that being said, now that he is playing, there's going to be a lot of expectations for Rodgers and the Packers to not only make it back to the NFC Championship game, but make it to the Super Bowl this year. They've been knocking on the door. They have a great roster. And I expect that Green Bay to be a real contender again this season.
What did everyone think of his Office T-shirt? I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was hilarious. Jay, I'm sure you've been all over this story just like everybody else has. If this really is the last dance for Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, what is the future hold for Green Bay this year, but also beyond that?
I mean, everything Ryan said is true. I think Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, they define the Packers. I don't really know what it's going to look like should he be gone. And I know that the Packers really don't want that. I mean, they offered him an extension that would have made him the richest football player in the NFL. And he declined that, but still, I think that shows just how badly Green Bay wants him and wants him to stay. They know how valuable he is. They know how valuable both of them are. So with Aaron Rodgers potentially leaving, they're really going to have to completely reset the culture and the dynamic of the team. And I think it's definitely going to take building from the ground up should they have to worry about that. I think just having all these questions in the air of is that going to happen, is it not, is putting a lot of stress on the organization as a whole.
Yeah, Amber, you've got to imagine if Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams are gone a year from now, this franchise is almost going to be unrecognizable.
Yeah, it's going to be a complete 360. And the team is already talking about possibly voiding the 2023 season for Rodgers having his final year and saying they would review the 2022 season. That's what's in the talks right now. And, him showing up, it wasn't that big of a surprise to me because he would have faced a huge fine if he hadn't. I know he's definitely not in this for the money and he doesn't need it. But I think that him showing up, that was a very key element as to why he decided to do that. But of course, the first practice isn't until tomorrow, and it is not clear yet whether he will participate.
Yeah, definitely an interesting situation they've got going on in Green Bay there. Huge stakes are at play. You've got Jordan Love as the backup. Do you really think that he's the guy for the future? Who knows? But one thing that we are pretty certain is going to happen is Randall Cobb is on his way back to Green Bay. Now, this has not been confirmed. This is not official. But Cobb himself said that he expects to be traded back to Green Bay. And if you look back a couple of years ago, Randall Cobb was playing at an all-pro level, made the Pro Bowl. He seemed to be one of Rodgers' favorite targets, especially when Jordy Nelson was gone. And him and Jordy Nelson both went through similar fates when they left Green Bay. They sort of fell into irrelevancy. Jaya, do you think that if Randall Cobb is back in Green Bay, that he goes back to being one of the best slot receivers in football and the Packers have one of the best offenses again?
I absolutely do. I think this is a huge, huge move for the Packers. And should they be successful, they're going to be a powerhouse of an offense. I mean, especially since he is a veteran returning. And like you said, he's a great slot receiver. His chemistry with Rodgers is really well established. So I think should he be able to come back, he's really going to be able to work well with Rodgers and add to a powerhouse, like I said.
Yeah, Amber, Randall Cobb back there. You've got Devontae Adams already. You've got the smaller name players like your Valdez-Scantlings of the world that proved to be impactful players. Randall Cobb goes back there, you've got to favor them to get back to the NFC Championship again, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I agree 100% with Jaya. This is just going to make them incredibly powerful. And, if they are gearing up for a Rodgers departure, I think this return is very essential to this Green Bay Packers organization.
Ryan, do you think that this is a move almost to get back in the good graces of Rodgers, saying we brought one of your friends back? Maybe we had our differences in the past, but this is the olive branch.
I think that's a good point. I don't think Randall Cobb comes to the Packers if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up today. So I think that's a good point. But I'm not as high on the trade. It's not official, but on the rumors. I think Randall Cobb's a good player, but he is 30 years old and he does have an injury history. So I don't know how big this is. Maybe it's just a little boost of confidence for Rodgers, but I don't think he needs any more confidence, to be honest. In my opinion, this is more about depth at the wide receiver position rather than Randall Cobb being an all-pro again. I don't think he'll be an all-pro. I think he'll be a productive receiver and one that Rodgers can trust, but I don't see him having as big of an impact as Jay and Amber are suggesting.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. I think his best years are behind him, but maybe it is an important factor in getting Rodgers to at least have a better reputation or outlook on the franchise moving forward. Let's switch it up here, and we're going to go to another NFC team. Amber, you and I are close to this one. This is about Ron Rivera with the Washington football team, of course. For those who don't know, Ron Rivera was diagnosed with cancer last year, continued to coach throughout the season, managed to put it behind him. But now the Washington football team, but only just over half of their team has been vaccinated so far. Ron Rivera said that he was very frustrated with his team for not meeting that 85% quota, which of course would allow them to resume normal activities, whereas now they have to have separate meetings, wear masks in the presence of each other. Obviously, Rivera is immunocompromised. What do you make of this, Amber? Do you think that this is a big deal and signs of turmoil in Washington?
I do. I mean, if you have a coach that's upset with the players and they obviously are showing, they know their coach is immunocompromised. And the fact that they're not willing to actually just step up and get the vaccine so that they can ensure that they can have, those closer meetings and not have to deal with these specific guidelines, and to make sure that their coach stays healthy. I think it's absolutely crazy that they aren't willing to step up to do that. And I think, Ron Rivera has every right to be very upset about this. It's frustrating.
Ryan, it's an interesting situation here, right? Because all the players have their individual choice to decide on what they want to do, but there are also repercussions coming down from the league from that. So there's not really a set path for teams to walk on. Do you agree that this is a big deal, or do you think it'll just be left behind?
I think it's a very tricky situation. It's a very slippery slope. Ron Rivera is a great guy, first and foremost. And I'm very glad that he is cancer-free. With that being said, he is at risk if he does get COVID. But let's say that, like other guys on other teams where their coach is not immunocompromised, at the end of the day, it is their choice. But with that being said, the coach is at risk. So I think it could cause some issues in the locker room based on vaccinated and unvaccinated players. Especially since Rivera has put this out there publicly, I think it could cause some issues. With that being said, though, I still like the Washington football team to win this division, but it could cause some issues. I expect that more players will get vaccinated on this team after these comments were made public. But I just think Ron Rivera, he has a right to be upset, but I don't think he handled it correctly. I think he should have made this more in-house rather than public. Because it puts his players in a bad position.
Ryan makes a good point there. Ron Rivera, known as one of the most disciplined people in all of football, but he did make these comments public. Jaya, do you think that this is a sign that there is trouble in Washington?
I do. I mean, like you guys just said, it wasn't very wise of him to bring it public, but the fact that he did tells me that maybe there's more going on behind the scenes here. Maybe there were a lot of conversations being held, because for it to get to the point where he's publicly talking about this, it doesn't seem like his character to do that right away. I do think it should have stayed behind closed doors. Just because, like you said, it messes up the dynamic, the relationship with the players. So even just this drama could affect the team regardless of what happens. But as far as the vaccination situation itself, I think it's just really tricky, because this is a situation, obviously, that we've never been in before. And he has a right to be frustrated, but a lot of the players are frustrated too. I mean, back when they were talking about the potential of punishments for not being vaccinated, I don't know if you guys even saw DeAndre Hopkins. He tweeted out something that's now deleted. And it said, quote, "Never thought I would say this, but being in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL." So those types of statements, clearly there's this controversy is going to have some consequences just between players and coaches. And I think that's tricky, because people do have a right to their bodies and to make that decision. But I mean, if your coach needs your help, it's really a moral thing. And I think that's what's going to really affect the team in the long run, unless they sort this out.
I agree that it's tricky, but I also wanted to make the point, I don't know, everybody here's school situation, but I know for me and Grants, we're required to get the vaccine in order to go back to in-person classes. And I see that as the same thing for a team. I don't see any difference there. If I'm required to get it to do my job, I kind of feel like they should be too. And especially if they want to be respectful to their coach who has this serious issue, I think they're in the wrong here.
Yeah, I do think that's a good point. I think it should be, I'm surprised that they haven't made it a requirement yet. Yeah. I am surprised about that. I mean, I know there will still be pushback no matter what, but I would think that an organization would just go ahead and require it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a tricky situation. Like all of you mentioned, you want to do what's best for your team, but you also have these individual rights to make your own choices that can somewhat, they don't always agree with each other. So regardless of your stance on the matter, we know this is a situation that the NFL and frankly the world has never seen, at least in recent times. We're going to move on to another team within the division, the NFC East, obviously, and we are going to talk about the Washington football team's rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is coming back. Now, he had suffered a season-ending injury last year. We know that, but he is coming back, and the expectations are high for him in Dallas. Ryan, what do you make of what the Cowboys have been up to this offseason, and how do you think they will perform with Dak back under center?
Well, I think they're going to be improved compared to last year, but I mean, after what they went through last year, it can only go up. After Dak went down, they really struggled. And Prescott, in my opinion, was the only reason why the Cowboys were even worth watching last season. After he got injured, I'm not sure if you guys were watching Dallas, but I surely wasn't. With that being said, the biggest question mark for the Cowboys is their defense. They were historically bad last season. Yes, they got Dan Quinn as their new defensive coordinator, but really hard to go from last to even the middle of the pack with most of the roster still the same. Yes, Van Der Esch is coming back and screwing with Jalen Smith. But at the same time, they did draft Micah Parsons. He's a good player, but that's all at one position. Yes, linebacker is important, but do they have any rushers up front? Their secondary was very questionable last season. So the Cowboys need to focus on, stopping people first before they worry about their offense. So that's my biggest issue with the Cowboys.
Yeah, Amber, what do you think about this situation? Do you think that Dak Prescott coming back makes a huge difference? Or like Ryan said, do you think the defense is what they really need to work on to have a chance to compete for the division title?
I do agree that defense is probably their main issue right now. But, Dak Prescott coming back is a big deal. And I was reading what some people were saying about how he's been performing so far in training camp. Of course, it's early. And they were saying that his ankle looks absolutely great. And it actually looks like he's probably playing better on that one than he is his perfectly fine ankle. So I don't know if he's something we have to necessarily worry about going forward. I think he's perfectly fine. And I think he's obviously going to be a huge asset to the Cowboys. But I do agree they have a lot of other issues they need to address.
Jay, if there's one thing we know about Dak Prescott, it's that he's a warrior on the field or in the weight room. You have to think he's going to be coming back as close to full strength as someone can from an injury like that. Do you think with him back, the Cowboys are contenders to take the NFC East?
I think with Dak Prescott coming back, they are definitely have a much higher chance. Yes. Like you said, he's a fighter. He's a powerhouse. All of his coaches have been saying that he looks great, that, his rehab has gone swimmingly. So I really don't think anyone needs to be worried about Dak Prescott. I think he's going to come in and he's going to do what we know he can do. And he has a tendency to get better and better with each year. So that really is working for them. But like you guys said, I think that they have bigger things to focus on if they want a chance to get to the NFC East, specifically their defense. So that is going to be their downfall and what could prevent them unless they really, really try and fix that department over worrying about Dak Prescott.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, I don't mean to, kind of poo-poo the parade about Dak Prescott coming back. But, he hasn't been hit. He hasn't been hit yet. And
that is true. That is true.
A lot of injuries, especially as catastrophic as this one, a lot of it's psychological. He who knows how he's going to be in the first few games of the season. Is he going to be looking around at his legs, seeing where the rush is coming from? A lot of it's psychological. Yes, he looks great physically, but it is still early in the season. So we'll see how long it'll take before Prescott, is really comfortable with his ankle before he starts playing like the old Dak. So.
We're going to go over to our next topic here. We're still in the NFC, but Ryan, I'm going to make you wait just to torment you a little. Amber, you get the first word here. We're going to talk about the 49ers. Jimmy G has been named the starting quarterback ahead of Trey Lance. Now, obviously, they took Trey Lance with the third overall selection. He's only played one football game in the last 2 years, whereas Jimmy G is coming back from an injury. Do you like this choice out of Shanahan to announce this early that Jimmy G is, in fact, still the guy?
I do. I think, he's coming back from injury, but like you said, his other contender for this position, he's so new into the NFL. I think Jimmy G was the right choice to make in this situation, at least from my standpoint. That's who I would have chosen, because you want somebody who's more of a veteran. Even if there's a risk that maybe they're still having some recovery issues, they know what to do once they get out on the field.
Ryan, you got to wait. Jaya, what do you think here? Do you like Jimmy G getting the starting nod over Trey Lance this early in the offseason?
Yes, let me try and make this quick for the sake of Ryan here, but I do like that he said that, Trey Lance is young. They want to take it slow with him, and I think that that's for good reason. He still has time to develop and see what his future at the position with the 49ers is going to be, whereas Garoppolo, he has that veteran experience. And he did say there's no open competition right now. That's what Shanahan said. So nothing is ever in stone. The right now does keep the door slightly open for Lance to possibly, with a strong camp, you never know. Maybe he'll force his hand. But right now, I think it is smart of them to kind of keep developing him, take it a little slower, and go with the person that that has that veteran experience that they can trust to deliver.
Ryan, you know this better than anyone. Jimmy G just led them to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Obviously, you've got an incredible talent like Lance on the bench now. Some people are expecting him to take over in the middle of the season. Do you like Shanahan saying Jimmy G is still the number one right now?
I think by him announcing this, first of all, I don't think it's a surprise. I was expecting him to announce this pretty early on to stop the question, especially from the media, and maybe to take the pressure off Lance a little bit. With that being said, like Amber and Jaya mentioned, I think, Trey Lance was selected third overall for a reason. It's not like they just took him third overall. They traded a bunch of draft capital to get it. So I don't think this is a situation where, yes, ideally you'd want to take the time with Lance to develop, but I see him taking over in the middle of the season. In my opinion, it just takes one injury. And honestly, I hope Jimmy G doesn't get injured because I like him. He's a good guy and he's a decent quarterback. But his play on the field recently has been inconsistent. And I wouldn't be surprised if Shanahan pulls the trigger pretty quick on Lance if he struggles, because he has been prone to interceptions and turnovers. So I expect Lance to definitely make an appearance this season. It's a matter of when rather than if, in my opinion.
When rather than if. I like that. Since we're talking about Trey Lance, he's in the headlines for another reason. Him and Zach Wilson, obviously the second and third overall draft picks, are still unsigned. Now, they were taken that high. Ryan, you talked about it. The 49ers mortgaged their future to get this guy. You have to think that this isn't much of a story here. They're going to get signed, right, Jaya?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they're just holding off right now, but it would be crazy to think that they aren't going to get signed at some point. It's a matter of when rather than if, for sure.
Stealing Ryan's phrases there. Amber, you agree, right? Both these guys are going to be on the team by the first game.
Oh, yeah. And, we had the Chargers offensive tackle, Rashawn Slater. He was unsigned until today. He literally got signed right before going onto the field. So I think we're going to see these contracts rolling in. It's still early. No need to worry for them.
Ryan, 3 for 3 here. No big deal.
This is not much of a story at all, in my opinion. Especially guys taken second and third overall and being the face of the franchises going forward. I don't see this taking long at all. I wouldn't be surprised if we break the news tonight, tomorrow morning, the next day. Again, I'm going to use my line. It's a matter of when, not if. And in this situation, it's very soon, in my opinion.
Chemistry on the show's at an all-time high here. We're going to go to the NFC West. Well, we've been in the NFC West talking about the 49ers. We're going to the Seahawks here. They are close to a new deal with Jamal Adams. Now, Jamal Adams, on the New York Jets, people were wondering if he was actually as good as we thought he was because he was playing for a losing franchise. Then the story became about, is he worth the money you would have to pay to get him? It looks like the Seahawks think that he is. Ryan, if Jamal Adams gets locked up in Seattle for the next few years, what does that do for their team?
I think Jamal Adams is one of the best safeties in the NFL. The problem with Adams has been his injury history. He hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently, but when he is on the field, he's a real difference maker. I see the Seahawks, really trying to make an agreement quick with Adams. There had been a rift with the team in recent history. Looking back towards that, I forgot his name. He was a part of Legion of Boom. He left the team when he got injured. Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas,
the ex All-Pro safety for the Seahawks. That didn't end well with Pete Carroll. There was a picture of him actually flipping off his coach after he got injured a few years back. So, there has been some controversy with how Pete Carroll treats his players. Some guys love playing for him, but other guys don't really like, college atmosphere that he has, had in the past. Even Russell Wilson, his star quarterback, there was some rumblings in the offseason about him and Carroll's relationship. So, yes, I do believe Jamal Adams is very important to the Seahawks, and I expect them to come to an agreement before the start of the season. If they don't come to an agreement, however, I think this is a huge deal. And I see the Seahawks being, struggling on defense without him. He's a big piece to the puzzle.
Jay, you look around the division, you're going up against Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt. There's all sorts of talent. Nick Bosa for the 49ers. Yeah, beat you to it, huh? 49ers bias. I got you anyway. You feel like the Seahawks need a star on their defense. Obviously, they've got Bobby Wagner, but Jamal Adams, he is a must-sign for this team, right?
Right, yes. I mean, simply put, he's one of the best safeties in football for sure. I mean, even back when he got drafted by the Jets, number 6 in 2017, I remember Rival Scout calling him a freaking gift from the football gods. That's his quote. That was what he called him. But yes, he is such a strong safety. What makes him so great to me is that I really think he can do everything. He really excels at covering receivers, stopping runs, rushing the passer. He has a lot of versatility, and he can thrive in different roles that make him a really great defender. Like Ryan said, though, the only issue has been with these injuries. I think they are psychological, and it does take time because he hasn't been able to be on the field as long as we would like to see him. But when he is there, he makes his mark and he makes a huge difference. I think he'll be a huge, huge asset to the Seahawks. And should he be able to rehab those injuries and perform at his highest level, it will definitely, definitely help a lot.
Amber, if you're the Seahawks, are you paying him this huge money that he's asking for?
They sound like they want him. I don't know with the injuries if it's necessarily the best decision at this moment. But, Coach Carroll said that they think he's a fantastic football player and that they want him. They just haven't been able to get it on paper yet. He skipped the off-season program, but, now he's showing up for training camp. So I think it's a good deal for him. I don't know so much for the Seahawks, but we will see if he can, he played through injuries before. If he can do that again and actually put up great numbers, then I do think it might be a good move for the Seahawks.
And if he is back in Seattle, that division is just going to be incredible to watch. I'm sure Ryan's going to have a heart attack they have 6 matchups against each other. But for the neutral fans, every game in that division is going to be great. We'll go over to New England here. First time in the AFC. They've got a quarterback battle on their hands. Now, for the past month, pretty much ever since Mac Jones was drafted, Bill Belichick has been saying Cam Newton is the number 1. But again, you don't take a quarterback 15th overall with the intention of letting him sit on the bench for too long. Jaya, Mac Jones was probably the best quarterback in college last year. Do you think that if he doesn't get the start in week 1, we will see him at some point this year?
It's a matter of when rather than if, for sure. That's really the phrase of this whole show.
Let's make it the title. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, can we rename the show When Rather Than If? Because that's the vibe that we're getting throughout all of this. Yes, he definitely, like you said, they wouldn't have pushed for him so high without the intention of using him and his skills. I definitely think that Newton is going to be their main guy. I think it'll be a similar thing kind of with Garoppolo and Trey Lance. It's like they know they have their veteran, the person that they can trust, and then they're going to probably take it a little bit slower with Mac Jones. But again, should he have a crazy camp and really impress, I don't think that they're going to just let him sit there and do nothing. He's definitely a valuable asset, a super strong quarterback. So, yes, we will be seeing him when, I'm not sure, but we will be seeing him.
Amber, you agree Mac Jones gets at least one start this year?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, Newton, he's entering his 11th year, and I think it's good for him to start because he can kind of mentor Mac Jones. But that all depends, I think, on what level that Jones brings to camp, of how soon we will see him on the field. You know, like you said, he was the best in college. He set an NCAA record last year for his pass percentage, and I think he's going to be a great player. And, you know, that whole theme here, it's not a matter of if, but when, you know, we're going to see him this year. But I think there's going to be a lot of mentoring going on from Cam Newton first. He's definitely going to be the starter for the first majority of the games, I would say.
Ryan, Cam's not going to be willing to let that spot go very easily. You think Mac Jones gets a start in this New England offense at all this year?
I do. Yeah, I'm not very high on Cam Newton, to be honest. I think he's a great athlete. But, you know, considering the amount of hits he takes per game because he's running the ball so much, he struggles to throw the ball. And that was apparent last year. Yes, he didn't have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position. But at the same time, you know, as that starting NFL quarterback, especially an MVP quarterback back in 2015, you have to be able to throw the ball on time and effectively. And I don't think Cam Newton has been able to do that consistently. And I think Bill Belichick knew that, and that's why he took Mac Jones. And you can make the argument that Mac Jones is one of the most NFL-ready starters out of all the rookie quarterbacks. So I think he is ready to go. It just, you know, he has to master the playbook first and get on a good rapport with the coordinator. But I expect him to take the job pretty quickly.
Yeah, Mac Jones, I like that. One of the most pro-ready quarterbacks. When the Patriots took him, it was hard to find somebody that did not see him and Belichick clicking. It seemed like a match made in heaven. Our last story for today is one of the bigger ones. It's another AFC quarterback. The Houston Texans are now willing to trade Deshaun Watson. Now, of course, there is a bunch of speculation going on with his situation. There have been multiple allegations levied against him. Nobody is entirely sure what's going on. Nobody knows if he's going to be eligible to play this year or in the future. The Houston Texans had remained solid in their stance that they would not trade him, but now they are willing to listen to offers. Amber, you're going to get the first words on our last topic here. What do you think? What are you thinking if you're the Houston Texans? You know his situation. You weren't trading him. Now you are. What's going on in Houston? It's a mess.
It is a mess. But I think this has a lot to do with the fact that the NFL said going into this, while the investigation is ongoing, there are going to be no restrictions for him at the Houston Texans. And I think that's what they're kind of thinking through. Do we want to deal with this big drama issue with him, or do we just want to try to get him out and start trying to look into other talent? I think that's kind of what's going through their head. It's more or less they don't want to deal with the trouble of Deshaun Watson.
Ryan, the Houston Texans have the lowest odds of every team in football to make the Super Bowl. Do you think that looking to deal Watson to greener pastures is a good idea?
I don't think they have much of a choice. He has a very, very troubled present at the moment. I'm not sure. He has a bunch of allegations against him. Not sure the exact number, but it's quite a few. The problem is, I don't even think any team would be willing to trade for him, because if they do trade for him, they're going to look very bad in the public eye, and I don't blame them. He is a talented quarterback, don't get me wrong, but are you going to trade for a guy with this much baggage? You know, in my opinion, I think it's even, at least the allegations against him are even worse than Antonio Brown a year ago. So, you know, the only reason Antonio Brown got more press is because he was way more public about it, and there was a whole saga to go along with it. You know, Deshaun Watson's playing it smart in the sense that he's not really talking about it much. And if I was Deshaun Watson, I would cross my fingers that he would get traded because the Texans are the worst team in football. They don't have much talent. But like I said, he's going to get suspended, at least if these allegations are true, which I do believe they will be, considering there's 16 counts against him. So I don't see him playing anytime soon. Doesn't matter which team he's on. So the Texans are kind of in a really bad position. They have to trade him, but they can't. And what they're asking for is ridiculous. You know, it's one thing if he didn't have these allegations against him, but he does. And asking for like multiple first-round picks and a Pro Bowl caliber player is unrealistic. So yeah, it's just a bad situation for the Texans and Watson.
Jay, obviously Deshaun Watson's trade value has to be lowered with all this stuff going on. But like Ryan said, if you're the Texans, you're almost in a situation where you have to trade him. How do you figure out this situation? What do you do if you're Houston?
It's tough, you know. It's really, like Amber said earlier, they just don't want to have to deal with mess. They don't like headlines. They don't like this. And while the investigation is continuing, I think they did absolutely have no choice, especially with being a quarterback. Quarterbacks are, you know, the leaders of the team. So despite outstanding athletic ability and coordination and all of those athletic things, it really is about your character and who you are and your ability to lead your team, interact with your teammates. So to have these types of things on his record, it just doesn't really reflect well on the character of the face of the Texans. So I understand why they're trying to get him out. It could be beneficial should someone pick him up for Watson. As far as the Texans go, I think they're just really going to have to work on, if they are trading, they need to make a very smart trade and really just developing some other talent and focusing their energy into putting their eggs into a different basket, because clearly it's not looking good with Watson.
Yep, nobody out there really knows what's going to go on with Deshaun Watson. But if there is one thing that football fans around the country know, it's that the Houston Texans are going to stink next year. Do not predict them. Do not bet on them to win double-digit games, maybe not even half of that. They're in for a long season. That's going to do it for us here, though, at the Sports 2.0 show. If there's one thing to remember from today's show, it's a matter of when, not if. I was Grant Mitchell, joined by Amber Williams, Jay Williams, and Ryan Godzian. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to the Sports 2.0 network, and we will see you guys next time.